The pandemic is only the latest thing to alter the food supply chain. Environmental concerns and changing consumer habits have impacted the farm industry and also given rise to new industries like alternative meats. Tonight, we wanted to take a closer look at the beef industry, specifically how these dramatic shifts could alter what ends up on our plate. Our Matt Gutman has this report.
On horseback, Mike Jones herds his cows and calves on his ranch in Dardanelle, Arkansas. He considers himself an old-school rancher. 5 generations before him tended lands, raised cattle. It's a family business.
My wife spent 3 days trying to save a calf, everything she could do, and every medicine, stayed up with it all night. My daughters can do what most boys can't.
It's a life that he loves.
I'm just thankful, thank God, that I get to come out here and do this every day.
But it's come with hardship. Jones and his family say they're fighting for their livelihoods.
We've lost land in the past, lost ranches, lost farms. It takes a toll on your family if you're not pretty tough.
He says his son likely won't follow in his footsteps. There just isn't enough money in the business anymore.
We're just trying to keep our heads above water.
And when the pandemic hit, the bottom fell out. The entire food supply chain was affected.
Everything kind of came to a halt, and the cattle kind of got backed up in the feed yards where we sell our cattle, and the feed yard operators, the cattle prices fall. But you saw the prices in the grocery stores go absolutely through the roof. These beef processors are the ones that's making the money.
Beef wholesale prices hit a record high in April, spiking nearly 20% in just 1 week. But slaughterhouses, where workers are often stationed shoulder to shoulder, couldn't keep up. They, too, weren't immune from the virus. In April and May alone, about 16,000 meatpacking workers were infected with the virus. Nearly 90% of them were racial and ethnic minorities, people like 21-year-old Michael, who contracted the virus at the Smithfield pork plant in South Dakota.
I was struggling, so I was breathing so hard and getting close to other guys who know the job already, so I kept on moving around.
Smithfield, South Dakota plant had to temporarily shut down. Eventually, over 1,000 of its employees at this plant would become infected. The fixes advised by the CDC would later slow production. In all, dozens of slaughterhouses around the country were temporarily closed due to COVID outbreaks. But over the past 6 weeks, meatpacking facilities have bounced back. That said, cow and bull production was up 7% in the week of June 13th as compared to last year. But Jones says he hasn't seen that increase in demand because he says he's also competing with imported beef.
Say they're coming from South America at 30 cents a pound, and we're trying to sell ours at even at 90 cents or a dollar. We're not breaking even. Well, they're eventually going to get it to where we have no ranches left here in the USA.
And now changing eating habits and a greater awareness of the environmental impact of beef production is potentially threatening the single product Jones has ever had.
And so instead of the cows coming in, it's, in this case, soybeans that are brought in.
Yeah. We were granted exclusive access at the Impossible Foods factory in Oakland, California, where soybeans are transformed into raw-looking and tasting meat.
I mean, it tastes exactly like a burger, like any other burger.
Meat alternative sales have skyrocketed this year. Sales were up nearly 250% just in the 12 weeks ending on May 23rd.
So you're basically making just as much as you possibly can. We have hungry customers and we have to keep them fed.
Turning legumes into a product that so closely resembles meat requires some modern-day alchemy, but nothing gets killed and there's no gore, said the company's CEO, Pat Brown. Now, this is a tour you would rarely get in a real meatpacking plant in the middle of a pandemic where animals are killed, the carcasses dehaired and then butchered. The rise of alternative meat is partly due to meat shortages during the height of the pandemic and partly because of the greater scrutiny of conditions inside slaughterhouses for workers and the animals. That, according to Pat Brown of Impossible Foods, he says his customers are not just vegetarians, but people who are concerned about the environmental impact of beef consumption.
If you replace a pound of cow-derived beef with a pound of Impossible beef, you reduce your greenhouse gas footprint by the equivalent of the average daily commute in the U.S. 36 miles in a typical American car, or the equivalent of 92 miles flying in a passenger jet.
But some critics warn that both Impossible and Beyond Burgers are heavily processed.
In general, what we understand about the human diet and about the way that humans have evolved, ultra-processed food tends to be much less good for you than the whole foods alternatives.
But for consumers who want to be more conscious of their environmental footprint, the meat alternative is alluring. Impossible Foods boasts that pound for pound, its carbon footprint is 89% smaller than that of a real beef burger. But ranchers say they get a bad rap when it comes to their impact on the environment.
So much of the concern about the environment is really not directed at the cattle industry properly. It's an easy target because there's relatively few ranchers as compared to the rest of the population. But the ranchers have for centuries been stewards of the land and have cared for their air, land, and water.
But Pat Brown insists he's not after the ranchers, but what you could call the beef industrial complex.
You've said yourself that your goal is to kill the meat industry.
I would say yes, and I want to do it the old-fashioned way by fair competition in the free market, and basically not kneecapping ranchers, but inventing better foods that do a better job of delivering what consumers want.
Back on the ranch, Jones doesn't see what has been an indelible part of American culture disappearing anytime soon.
I don't think the generation of ranchers are going to die, no matter if it's my ranch or another ranch.
Matt Gutman, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.